The year was 2018. It was a beautiful summer day, and a 19-year-old media guy wanted to get as much out of his break as he could after his first full year of college courses. As such, he went to pick up his friend and take him to the movie theater so they could watch the newest summer blockbuster, Mission Impossible Fallout. However, when he got to his apartment, he was nowhere to be seen. Looking at his phone, he saw a message sent from his friend right as he left his house saying that he hadn't gotten out of bed yet because he was feeling sad and would not be able to come out and accommodate him to the movies. Undeterred and having arrived in plenty of time, the media guy called his friend and told him that a day at the movies with a friend would really cheer him up and he would willingly wait for him to get ready. Boy, was media guy in for a shock. For the next 45 minutes, his friend would just talk himself down and down into the pits where nobody would dare reside, all while stating that he could not come out of bed because his mental state had overtaken him. Hearing all of this, the media guy went through all 5 stages of grief in that 45-minute time span. He was just so dumbfounded. How could his friend, who he had been close with for years, leave him hanging like this? It's not like he asked his friend to run a half marathon. He just wanted to go to the movies. That should have been a very easy thing to do. And yet, his friend claimed that not only could he not come to the movies, but that he could not get out of bed. All just because he was feeling down? Had he not had his phone handy, he would have completely ghosted Media Guy, despite being perfectly fine physically. The media guy did not know how that could be possible. He could not understand why his friend couldn't come out and give him what he believed to be a compelling reason as to why he wouldn't do what he said he would do for his buddy that he had gotten to know very well over the years. But the fact of the matter is, the media guy's friend did, in fact, fail to do this because, as it turns out, his friend had clinical depression. Once in a blue moon, a day would come where his depression would hit him so hard that he literally could not get out of bed through no fault of his own. However, the media guy did not know that, and even if he did, he would not have understood it, and as such, the media guy proceeded to scream about it. It's been an interesting past few months, to say the least. My channel, though still minuscule in the grand scheme of things, took off in a way that I did not anticipate. At the start of the year, over 8 years after I uploaded my first video, my channel had 46 subscribers, but in the first 3 months of the year, not only did that figure increase by more than 6-fold, but my total views also increased by more than 5-fold in roughly the exact same way. Of course, I cannot thank you all enough for watching my content and subscribing for more, but I also have to thank YouTube for getting you to click on my videos in the first place. Not only are my videos showing up more in your recommended feeds, but you are clicking on my videos more than ever before, and the video that led the way with an impressions rate almost 4 times higher than my average was my video on what I believed was the tragic story of the YouTuber PIEGUYRULZ. However, despite the great impressions click-through rate, it would be an understatement to say that a lot of people who watched that video were not, in fact, greatly impressed. As it turns out, the video's reception ended up being mostly positive, but still very polarizing. There were a number of people who thanked me for getting this word out there, but there was also no shortage of people who took issue with what I had to say. I spent a lot of time addressing issues that these individuals had in the comments, but I am not sure how many of my viewers read those responses. I could go over the critiques and my responses to them in this video, but I don't really feel like doing that. I ended up stopping responding to people in the comments because, as time moved on, I just really wanted to move on from this myself. I had no idea when I made this video in January that I would be coming back to the subject in March or even the latter part of February, let alone May, but lo and behold, the video ended up provoking many people to write comments that garnered my attention for quite a while. And the comment that shocked me the most by far was the comment left by Shadowstreak. Again, I won't go over the entire comment, but I do want to read and address the first sentence, which goes as follows. As someone who's best friends with the guy, I can solemnly say that the overwhelming majority of this video that criticizes PieGuy's character consists of pure conjecture rather than fact. Yes, that is true. I knew that when I made the video. In case you missed it, here is what I said right before the more critical section of the video. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to speculate. In fact, before the first section of the video, when talking about what the second section of the video would bring, I also said this. And I'm going to use what he made and told us about himself to speculate about just what exactly happened to him. As you may have noted from both of those clips, I used the word speculate multiple times in the video. What does it mean to speculate? Well, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, to speculate is to form a theory or conjecture about a subject without firm evidence. I knew when making the video that a number of the points that I made could only be done through forming conjecture since I was fully aware that I did not have the full story. Why did I go down the conjecture route instead of trying to get the full story? Well, I was so convinced that we would never be able to get the full story. You see, after Pie Guy ghosted us last year, I found myself looking to see why this could be the case, and everything I found all pointed back to one answer that I just could not shake for the life of me. The picture in my head was that the reason why communication between him and his fans died is because well, uh, in case you don't know, in my original cut of my PIEGUYRULZ video, I stated that I believed that AJ committed the act. I edited that part out after Shadow left his comment, even though it should still be pretty clear what I was alluding to. And that was that. After spending a lot of time in the comments section, I found myself willing to move on, trying to kill off my desire to try to get any more answers about the whole ordeal, as it seemed like, for whatever reason, Pie Guy would never give them. Boy, was I in for a shock. Yep, when it comes to his disappearance, I don't have to form conjecture any longer, as we have words straight from the horse's mouth. I was genuinely stunned at first, but as I read his post, that feeling largely wore off. I made a community post documenting my initial response and stating my desire to continue moving on from this, but the pollsters made their voice clear, a majority wanted me to address this, and a further poll showed how they wanted a video in the same vein as the first one that I made. So now, for hopefully the last time, I will take a deep dive into what PIEGUYRULZ has to say. So, are you ready, kids? Actually, if you are a kid, maybe you shouldn't watch this, because even though I want to end this video on an uplifting note, as I tried to do with my last video on Pie Guy, for right now, things are going to get really quite depressing. This is PIEGUYRULZ. Goodbye? But why? Alright, let's just get into the brass tacks. What was this community post about? Well, let's read through the first paragraph. I've put off saying goodbye for a year now. It's so final and there's so much more I want to say, but if I keep waiting until I'm able to properly articulate everything in a video, then I'll just leave everyone who cared about me hanging. So here it is, my short goodbye message. Maybe it'll be followed someday by a longer video goodbye, but probably not. To be honest, this is probably the least surprising part of this post to me. I figured that, especially after Shadow left his comment, the only reason why Pie Guy would make a public communication ever again is to say farewell, and that would truly be it. So yeah, that is now fully addressed. I do not have anything else to add here. But moving on to the why, this is where things get a bit more interesting. And just like how AJ's points were in no particular order, how I address his points will be in no particular order as well. Case in point, I'm going to start with the second point that he made, where he says that his channel has been sub-stagnant for like a decade. This statement is bafflingly inaccurate. On June 29th, 2013, AJ's channel had 4,667 subscribers. Within the past decade, his channel's subscriber count increased 16-fold. And yeah, his language makes it sound like he knows that he is exaggerating a bit, but the amount of his exaggeration here is unreasonable. I could maybe understand it just a little bit if his situation was like Mr. Enter's, where his subscriber count peaked in December 2019, and then, in the 3+ intervening years, his channel's subscriber count decreased by over 10%. However, Pie Guy's subscriber count peaked in April 2021, and then, in just the 2 intervening years, his channel's subscriber count decreased by less than 3%. Even if we just want to look at big bumps and not gradual gains, in June of 2019, less than 4 years ago, when he had 68,000 subscribers, his subscriber count increased by over 5,000 subscribers in just 2 weeks. That is an increase in his total number of subscribers by over 7.5%, which is more than double the rate of decline that his channel has seen in subscribers in the past 2 years. Needless to say, I am not buying this remark. But even if it was true, should that really keep him from making videos? Mr. Enter hasn't stopped making videos despite seeing much bigger declines in his subscriber numbers, and the fans that he does have seem to be pleased with this. PieGuy could still make videos and please the fans that he still has, like how Enter is doing right now. I could keep going, but I have 10 more points to go through, and maybe some of those will be more accurate and understandable. The next point that I want to address is his last point, where he says that I'm not even PieGuy anymore. This persona was something I made when I was 16. My views and personality and interests have changed a ton since then. Well, first off, this statement is also blatantly false. AJ was born on November 4th, 1993. The first video where he verbally referred to himself as PieGuy was uploaded to YouTube on May 18th, 2008, when he was 14, not 16. Admittedly, that's not a big deal, but it did stick out to me, as you would think that the one who knows when a creator started a particular persona would be, well, the creator. But as for his personality and interest changing, does that preclude him from making content as PieGuyRules? He isn't the only person to start a YouTube career as a teenager, and I believe that the vast majority of teenagers have their personalities and interests evolve as they mature as a human being. Should they sign off from YouTube as a result? I certainly don't believe so. I think what AJ is trying to get at here is that he believes that people only subscribed for the beliefs and interests that he had when he was 14, and since that part of him died off during the recast years, he has nothing of value for those in his subscriber base. While it is true that the recast turned some people off, there were still others that were willing to stick with him even while his personality changed, and none of this should have kept him from making content on the platform. It is not disingenuous to continue a particular persona even if the individual behind that persona shifted personally. You might disagree with me here, and that's fine, but simply put, I'm not buying this point either. The next point that I will bring up is similar in nature, where he says that I don't even watch many cartoons these days. This more specific point is a bit more understandable to me. While I think he should acknowledge that there was a significant portion of his channel that was not cartoon related, like his Schneider's Bakery videos, and heck, even his drama videos about cartoonists didn't require him to watch the cartoons in question, it is true that the content of his channel was focused on cartoons by and large. However, I still don't believe that precludes him from making videos on his channel. There have been a number of channels that have shifted their direction on their primary channel. Mr. Enter went from an MLP YouTuber to a general cartoon YouTuber. Alice Mark went from a Sonic YouTuber to a general cartoon reviewer as well. Shay Frillis went from a YouTube pooper to someone who also focuses on reviewing animated content. Heck, my channel's content noticeably shifted last year. Starting a YouTube channel does not mean that you are doomed to talk about just that one thing on your channel for the rest of your life. You are free to talk about whatever you want as long as it isn't hurting anyone. Just because AJ sees PieGuyRules as the cartoon reviewer doesn't mean that he has to be, and for that reason, I am not buying this point either. Here's the next point I will bring up. I failed to evolve and adapt my style. AJ, may I ask, in what way? You don't provide any specifics, so, broadly speaking, I would say that you did evolve and adapt your style. You went from pointing a camera at a DS to getting a capture card. You went from talking in front of screenshots to getting original art. You got the PyCons in order to make your videos more visually interesting, and you got them redesigned. 3 times! When your artist no longer made your art, you started to do the art yourself. And you did a really good job. I was very pleased as a fan because I did see you grow and improve at your craft. As such, this is yet another point that I am not buying. And I do mean this as a compliment because AJ did what many good YouTubers do in upping their production quality and evolving their style as the years go by into something more interesting and effective. It's just a shame that he doesn't see that. Why is he being so hard on himself? Unfortunately, the next few points are going to provide some insight to this question. Yeah, this is where the video gets truly depressing. I actually took a day off from writing the script because I didn't want to write about what is coming next. The 2 points that come as an abhorrent package deal are as follows. I am so very tired of finding out how many animation people are grooming pieces of trash. It's depressing, and I feel uncomfortable making content on a platform that did absolutely nothing about the groomer who admitted to it on their site. Oh goody, I get to talk about Cosmodor. I'm going to try to keep this section short because I really don't want to get deep into his scummy actions. There are no shortage of videos online about the subject, and I would recommend the videos by Rhythm Rev and Just Stop in particular. But in case you somehow don't know, Cosmodor was a German YouTuber who first came to prevalence in early 2018 with his videos on ranking every episode of SpongeBob. Sounds similar to another series that someone else created on this platform if you ask me. Throughout the next 2.5 years, Cosmo would upload many cartoon-themed videos and would collaborate with many other channels, including PIEGUYRULZ on several occasions. This all came crashing down in the summer of 2020 when a scandal about how Cosmo groomed a minor fully came into light. Considering PieGuy's collaborations with him, I can definitely understand frustration and devastation on his part about all of it. However, the remark that YouTube did absolutely nothing about it just leaves me scratching my head. I'm not saying that it isn't true, but I am saying to myself, what could YouTube have realistically done? And I must put emphasis on YouTube. The authorities in Cosmo's jurisdiction could, and, given the evidence, really should investigate the matter. Heck, maybe they have already done so in the year plus that Cosmo has had his YouTube channel deleted. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the case to get YouTube to do something about Cosmo completely hinges on allegations of really nasty stuff that happened off of the platform. To my knowledge, and I could be completely wrong about this, but as far as I am aware, none of that violates YouTube's terms of service. With this, YouTube wouldn't do anything about Cosmo's channel in the same way that YouTube didn't do anything about ProJared's channel, or James Charles's channel, or any other channels that have gone through similar controversies. I believe that YouTube would not act on simply these allegations. Are they damning allegations? Considering that the victimizer has admitted to it and the victim has vouched for it, yeah, I would say that they are damning, although I also thought that the ProJared allegations were damning at the time. But until the allegations become permanent marks on a Cosmodor criminal record, as it seems like they really should, please do not get my words twisted here, it seems like this is a situation where YouTube would not have gotten involved. It is not YouTube's job to take action on the scummy actions that happen outside of its platform unless they become legal matters. Again, if I was PieGuy in this situation, I would be very frustrated and hurt as well, but facts don't care about your feelings, and these are the facts as I see them. And as for other animation groomers, yeah, they are most certainly out there. John K is probably the most famous example, but Dan Schneider, whom AJ has covered extensively on his channel, has seemingly done things involving minors that are very foul and disgusting as well. All I can really say is that there are bad eggs in every community. The important thing to remember here is that most people in any given community that is not inherently immoral are upstanding people. I know it's hard to see this because the internet really amplifies the rotten voices, but my life has shown me that the vast majority of people, not just in the animation world but the whole world, are not rotten. For example, I am a Catholic who is not afraid to proclaim his Catholic faith. When hearing that, some of you may point to the movie Spotlight and say, "This movie shows that the Catholic Church is filled with creeps. Can you really stand by it with all of that knowledge?" Yes, I can, because that is not the overwhelming majority of what the Catholic Church is. The reason the church has endeared over 1 billion faithful is because the vast majority of leaders in the church are honest to goodness individuals who want to spread the good news of great joy for all people. Spotlight is not what the Catholic Church is. And for the record, I do think that Spotlight is an amazing movie with great performances, impactful directing, and a gripping story. And the reason why it is so gripping is because you wouldn't think that the Catholic Church would harbor a conflict like this. Why? Because it largely doesn't. And the same goes for just about every community out there, including the cartoon community. And that is all that I want to say about these 2 points. So much for keeping it short. So moving on to this next point, for some mental health reason I don't even fully understand, I struggle immensely to work on editing videos for hours, and I've never been able to sit and write scripts. I have all of these ideas in my head that I just struggle to translate into content. It has always been difficult, but it got way worse over time. That is why I did the podcast/stream thing for so long. I didn't have to plan too much and work so much better with a partner. I actually don't have much to say about this one. In his College Confessions video on English 120, he talks about his struggles with writing. In his video where he talks about how he makes every episode of SpongeBob Reviewed, he says that he has only just begun to write scripts for some of his videos after making videos for over 8 years. And in the Tragic Explanation video, he talks about how it just got harder for him to make videos in general. When he says that he struggles to take the ideas in his cranium and turn them into content, that sounds to me like he may very well have ADHD, since a key thing with ADHD people is that they have so many ideas that bounce around in their head, but getting them out is a real challenge. But other than that, I don't want to put any more effort into trying to understand AJ's mental health issue that he doesn't even fully understand himself. The next point that I will address is his first point. I don't feel like sharing my opinions online anymore because the internet's become such a hostile place. I can't say that this is inherently wrong, since it is simply a matter of opinion, so all I can do is agree or disagree with it. So, is the internet such a hostile place, in my opinion? Well, I think it can be. What makes the internet such an interesting place is that there is no such thing as distance. Whenever something bad happens somewhere on this earth, it is brought right to our front door by people simply talking about it in public spaces on the internet. And, as I displayed in my previous video on PIEGUYRULZ, there were a lot of nasty situations that brought about hostility or provoked hostile reactions that caught AJ's attention. Ultimately, the internet, at its most basic function, is just a tool for communication, and, as centuries of deadly conflicts have shown us, communication between others is not always friendly. And yet, if the internet was so overwhelmingly hostile, people like myself would not want to be on the internet, yet here I am. And not because I need to, but because I enjoy my time on the internet. Quite a lot, as a matter of fact. While it is easy to find hostility on the internet, it is also easy to ignore it, and content creators like PieGuy have helped immensely in facilitating that. They have made it so that we can consume content that is tailored to our interests instead of being stuck with whatever crap the news cycle wants to throw at us. Escapism is one of the greatest gifts that the internet has brought us, and that is why YouTube is so successful. Yeah, there are bad eggs on YouTube, and there are channels that keep the drama flow going, but there are so many others that exist solely to entertain, and they have done such a great job that it has helped transform the media landscape. People can make good money by drawing in millions of viewers through simple but effective content, and that is truly quite remarkable. And yeah, even with great escapist content, there are going to be people out there that are going to be hostile towards it for who knows what, but creators largely reap what they sow. And looking at all of the nice comments that PieGuy got for his goodbye, it shows that his audience was very positive towards him because PieGuy was largely very positively entertaining. But that also segues me into talking about the next 2 points. Maybe it's because of the health reason that PieGuy doesn't fully understand, but for whatever reason, this is how AJ felt about his YouTube career. When I think about being a content creator, I associate it with people hating me and every one of my failures. I look back at my content and am just embarrassed by it all. I suck at editing, piggybacked off others' hard work, was super negative, and just contributed nothing. Other people do what I did so much better. I, 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 I just, you know what? For this section, I am just going to put up screenshots of the comments that were left under PieGuy's farewell post and let you come to your own conclusion about whether or not the reactions of his audience members back up this claim. Feel free to pause the video and read the remarks from the fans about PieGuy and his content. Yeah, his YouTube tenure wasn't perfect. No YouTube career is, but that is perfectly fine. People are willing to accept mistakes within reason because everyone makes mistakes as humans, and if the good far outweighs the bad, then people will stick around. Heck, even though every episode of SpongeBob Reviewed was by far my favorite series that PieGuy put out, and I was very sad when it ended, I still watched and thoroughly enjoyed all of his other scripted and edited content because I valued his opinions and enjoyed what he had to say. Yeah, there were mistakes that I noted, as you can see in the video that I made about him, but I still stuck with him because the good outweighed the bad. I sincerely hope that one day he can realize that, yeah, there were decisions that he made that could be criticized, but the good that he brought to the table far outweighed the bad, and he can rest easier as a result. Which brings me to the last point. On top of everything that I already listed, AJ says that he has, and I quote, anxiety about everything else on this list, and even admitting these things because I fear I'll ruin the joy others got out of my content, unquote. That, honestly, makes perfect sense. Everything here is so negative to the point where, and I am speculating here, I will make that very clear, but it really does sound to me like he truly does have clinical depression. He struggled to come out to the internet space and address his fan base because of all these thoughts that he had that are negative distortions of reality, just like the friend of the media guy in the opening story. It makes these statements and the lack of forthcoming in the previous several months much more understandable. And after the media guy made a video about it where he, again, screamed about the situation, this time to the point where he really strained his voice, he has come to terms with it as well. And that's all of the points that AJ made. It all sounds like this whole situation was very painful for him to go through. Heck, it was hard for me to make this video simply talking about it. Even though his community post was made on March 29th, it took me until quite a bit later to get this video out. I wanted to get it out on April 10th, but the topic at that point in time sucked out a lot of my motivation to meet that deadline. Why did I have that deadline? What was so important about April 10th? Well, that day marked the 15-year anniversary of the very first upload to the PIEGUYRULZ YouTube channel. Yes, PIEGUYRULZ gave us content in the form of free YouTube videos for 14 years, if you cut out the past year where he didn't really do anything. So, at the very least, after just about a decade and a half of content, we can say that he definitely had a good run. And even though he may be gone, his legacy will most certainly not be forgotten. In Rhythm Rev's video on Cosmodore, he credits AJ for starting the cartoon reviewing community. The success that he was able to garner all the way back in 2008 showed that there was a substantial group of people that enjoyed watching someone take cartoons and other shows largely geared towards younger audiences more seriously. Who knows how many YouTubers watched his content and got inspired to talk about what might have been considered embarrassing for adults to talk about in the past. Heck, how many people watched his videos in the past and are now taking what they learned from them and applying it within shows that they eventually got to animate or direct or whatever? And even though he is not making content anymore, at least as Pie Guy Rules, I am sure that AJ is still contributing to society with the same level of skill that he brought to YouTube content creation. But for now, when it came to entertaining the world with his thoughts about the kind of media that he found interest in, Pie Guy Rules did his job, and a damn good one at that. So now, it seems like the last thing for me to do is conclude this video and close the book about this one individual once and for all. So, let's go through how Pie Guy concluded his farewell post. Anyway, I appreciate everyone who I've interacted with on here over the years. Thanks for all the support. I'm going to continue enjoying my life out in the real world as myself. I have no plans of deleting this channel or anything, so if for whatever reason you want to watch my videos, most of them are still there. Pie Guy Rules, offline. And now, here is how I will end this farewell video. Thank you, Pie Guy, for bringing so many people so much joy with your content. Thank you for creating content so endearing that it got your subscriber base to explode over the past decade. Thank you for evolving your content for the better as new subscribers came in. Thank you for bringing passion to the content that you talked about, whether it be cartoons, live action shows, or whatever else piqued your interest. Thank you for contributing to the cartoon community with your videos that were well edited, often positive, and stood alone as quality pieces of entertainment. Thank you for bringing new and interesting ideas for content to the table that got others to take notice. Thank you for dispelling hostility with your level-headed approach to conflicts. Thank you for evolving as a person, going from a 14-year-old excited youth to a 29-year-old mature adult. Thank you for being a morally upstanding person that will not stand for the awful behavior of others. Thank you for your every episode of SpongeBob Reviewed series, as it is what led many people to discover and fall in love with your content, and far into the future, your channel will largely be associated with that very successful series. And, most of all, thank you so much for providing myself and so many others with so many great memories. Happy trails, Pie Guy. I wish you the best life that you can possibly lead, whatever that may be.